Okay, good morning. Once again, my name is Gathoni Methu. I am the membership lead at PACPRO, and you are most welcome to our webinar series on EPR and all things pertaining to the PPM regulations. That's the plastic packaging regulations, the import fee. So we will be having an extensive discussion today. And I just wanted to give us some briefing on how the program will be lined up for today, and then we can get into it. Now, today we have speakers from the National Environment Management Authority. So we have the Director of Compliance with us and the technical team under compliance. We have the Director of Enforcement as well as the technical team. They will be giving their remarks. The CEO as well will be giving the position that we currently are in. And then we will follow in with the discussions, a brief explanation from the Ports Authority, just for us to appreciate what happens at the ports and how clearing happens. And then we will have some questions passed on from the different industry associations that will be present. And just once again, giving a special thanks to our partners who we will acknowledge at the end of this webinar. Then we will finish off with the technical piece from PACPRO regarding how to actually do your submissions, what is required from you, what the PRO will be doing for you. Now, as we move along, we have already received some of your questions, which we will table when we get into the Q&A session, and some of them will be addressed during the presentations. However, should you have additional questions that you may not have submitted as you are registering, please place them in the Q&A section of this call, and we will proceed to review all of them as we go through the Q&A session. Now, each one of you is muted for purposes of this call. And once we get into the Q&A session, as you raise your hand, we will unmute you. Kindly check that you are in a quiet place, even as you are speaking, so that we can be able to hear your questions. We will be recording this meeting and send you a copy of the recording after this meeting. So your presence in this call and the consent then takes us to have that you are okay with us recording this call. So once again, karibuni sana, and I will hand over to the CEO, Mrs. Joyce Kashuki-Waweru. Karibu sana.
Thank you, Gathoni, and good morning all. Thank you for making the time to be able to join in this very important webinar. It's part of a series that we hope is going to shed more light on the issues that are surrounding the implementation of both extended producer responsibility management regulations as well as the plastic packaging regulations. By name, of course, I'm Joyce Kashuki-Waweru. I am the Chief Executive Officer at the Packaging Producer Responsibility Organization, PACPRO. We are a PRO established in 2018, mandated to handle both non-hazardous and hazardous packaging. For hazardous packaging, we are dealing with cosmetics and such like material. In our line of operation, of course, we have been part and parcel of the regulatory process in terms of sitting on the technical committees that have supported the development of the Sustainable Waste Management Act of 2022, as well as the Extended Producer Responsibility Regulations of 2024. That being said, I think my job today is to give you a high-level brief of where we are as it pertains what is happening in the regulatory space. NEMA is present today. We have the privilege of having both directors of compliance and enforcement as well as their technical teams. And so they will be able to take your questions as much as they can. And so allow me to just give you a brief. The Sustainable Waste Management Act was passed and enacted in 2022. And in that act, there is Section 13 that mandates all producers to manage their waste or that emanates from their products or their packaging thereof. Off of that is also the Extended Producer Responsibility Regulations 2024. And in that regulation, it then crystallizes what the responsibilities of a producer are as it pertains to managing their waste. Beyond that, it also scopes out what is the role of a producer responsibility organization, such as ourselves, including the ambit around how we are registered, what it takes to be registered as a PRO, and beyond that, of course, what is the role of the county governments, and what the expectations and penalties are for, of course, not complying with the regulation. That regulation was passed in 2024. And in that regulation, of course, over and above what you would be paying to your PRO for management fees in terms of taking care of your waste, there is also an importation fee of 150 for secondary packaging or per product, depending on what category it is. There are 5 in the first schedule. And like we did with the last participants of the previous webinar, we will circulate that again for your information. We then have also the plastic packaging regulation, and this regulates flexible, soft plastic packaging. And it is something soft like this, not your rigid bottles. And because of that, a lot of yourselves who are supplying our retail entities must have gotten a notification in December from the retailers that you ought to be compliant with both of those regulations. They are interlinked in that to comply with your plastic packaging regulation, you need to show how you're going to manage your waste. And you need to show how you're going to manage your waste by way of extended producer responsibility. And that is why it looks like you have 2 different regulations that are talking about EPR. That being said, enforcement is now fully in place. Last year, there were court cases that had been filed against the implementation of extended producer responsibility, but it has been lifted. And so what that means is that now the authority, National Environment Management Authority, is able to fully enforce EPR as well, fully. And that means that anyone who is introducing any product into the market must comply. Now, as a PRO, we appreciate that for some people, it's a fairly new concept, which is why we are having these sessions. And I think for a lot of you in the room, of course, there are contentious issues around the 150 EPR import fee, how to register for it, and that will be taken care of in this session. What I would like to maybe bring to your attention is that there is an MOU that was submitted to NEMA by KEPSA on behalf of industry through a consultative process that put in different views in terms of how NEMA maybe needs to define per item, what is the 150 being levied on, and such like terms. Once we get feedback that maybe the MOU has been signed, then we can circulate it. Because I am made aware that, of course, NEMA will have to provide input to the MOU, and I believe that is why it cannot be shared right now. However, what that MOU is supposed to do is that it's supposed to provide a boundary for the definitions of per item and other contentious issues around especially the 150 shillings. For instance, when is it being levied, all those aspects. Beyond that, of course, is to bring to your attention that as PROs, producer responsibility organizations, all PROs in the country today, we have received communication from NEMA in January regarding our registration process. And as it pertains to that, specifically with respect to the EPR fees that we charge. Now, the EPR fees we charge are the monthly rates that we charge producers for the amount of packaging or product that they put into the market. Based off of that, different value chain actors, for instance, the waste value chain actors through the Kenya Association of Waste Recyclers, have collated what their rates should look like, okay? And NEMA has provided us with a formula that we need to use to be able to calculate our new EPR rates. Now we have, together with the other PROs, we have formed a quasi PRO alliance to be able to review this. And so we are anticipating that we should be concluding with that process by this week. Matter of fact, we do have a meeting this afternoon to be able to review that. However, I think what I would like to bring to your attention is that this revision of EPR fees, of course, is being pegged to our application for registration as PROs, because no PRO right now is formally registered with NEMA. We are legally operating entities under the laws of Kenya, and so we operate legally. However, from the ambit of the regulation, the EPR regulation, we do need to be apply for a license. And one of the areas and things we have been tasked to review is the EPR fee. And so, of course, we would still come back to our respective members once we have concluded with that process to be able to table what we have found, even before we go back to the authority. That being said, yesterday, the National Environment Management Authority, of course, started to audit some of the retailers. And upon going to some of these retail outlets, of course, they have been asking for the EPR clearance. Okay, and EPR clearance means that you have paid up your fees for January 2026. And of course, as we are coming into the March, I'm sure by mid-March, they will be expecting that for February 2026 will also be paid up. What that means is that if the retailers are not able to provide those EPR clearances, then your products cannot be stocked on their shelves. Okay. And I would like you to remember the conversation around the EPR fee that I have mentioned, which of course also determines how you get your EPR clearance fee. As PROs, we are also going to be audited by the regulator this month. And so that once that happens, maybe in the next session of the webinar, we'll be able to provide a briefing. I think allow me to use that as a stage to segue into the next part of the program, where now we will be able to hear directly from the regulator. And I would like to guide that we put our questions in the chat. I know we have already received a lot of preliminary questions. Just keep putting them in the Q&A so that once the presenters are done, especially the directors, then we can then be able to provide answers so that then we don't have a lot of back and forth before the presentations are done. Thank you very much, Gathoni. Over to you.
Thank you very much. I would like to welcome David Ongare, the Director of Compliance, to the floor. Karibu sana, David.
Newton, I see Newton's hand is up.
Yes, I think we're using Newton's laptop, so we'll
Okay.
just unmute Newton.
Okay, okay.
Newton, I think you can speak now.
Hi, this is David.
Oh, yes.
I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear
Yes,
you.
we can.
All right. Thank you very much, PACPRO, for inviting us to this particular forum. This being probably a guidance kind of meeting and also semi-technical. And that's why we have invited all our officers also to sit in, especially now today, the officers from the plastics desk. From the outset, I wanted to also state that the basis for these regulations, they follow upon the ban, the plastics ban, which we went into effect in 2017. And subsequent to that, we used to issue what we call clearances, which then were subsequently, of course, overtaken by events when the regulations came into place. So we no longer give these clearances, but we give these licenses. As of course, PACPRO have already mentioned, the PROs take on some of the responsibilities for the waste management that emanates from the plastics. And we need to look at these regulations from a point of view that they are supposed to act as a disincentive towards the continued use of plastic. So you minimize the plastic waste specifically by how you do the packaging. And also we are looking at the issues of alternative, sustainable alternatives. Yeah, sorry, I was being reminded to turn on the video.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, so
Thanks.
as I mentioned, we initially used to give clearances in the intervening period between 2017 and 2024. But those have then subsequently been replaced by the licenses which we give. With regard to the registration of the PROs, you remember that the applications were done, and I believe even PACPRO and the others have received their issue letters from our end, for which then, if the issues are addressed, then they should be able to get their registration as quickly as possible. So we have a small presentation with me, and I will go straight to it, and then subsequent to which, then we'll get the Q&A to share my screen. Kindly allow me to share my screen, Gadoni.
All right, working on that. Are you able to share your screen now?
No, not yet. It's still blocked. I already see some questions regarding the PROs. We had a session the other day. Remember that this extended producer responsibility can be exercised either individually or through an EPR scheme. So I think you're not being confined to join a PRO. If you feel you have the muscle to run your own EPR responsibilities, you are able to do so. And therefore, the requirements for registration are similar to the other ones for a PRO. Joyce, I'm still not able to share.
Charity, are we able to support that?
It's still blocked.
Zach, I think you're sharing.
Gadoni, someone from your end is able to do this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So as we're sorting that out. So what I wanted to do is I've just shared a few questions with Newton, which are still something that we would need you to clarify. So I'll just ask those two questions as we sort out the sharing screen, which is, could you clarify on the aspect of the Kentrade system versus the e-citizen? So that's a question that's come in a lot in terms of where is this going to be consolidated on the Kentrade system? I know there's a long-term plan and there's a
it's not
short-term
long-term,
plan.
It's integrated.
Integrated.
So
if you could just clarify.
It is real time. I did mention that there is within Kentrade the national electronic single window system, the NESWIS. And we're expecting that now we should be able to do everything on that platform. When you pay through e-citizen, the long-term plan is that your import, whatever should come through the system. But as we set the modalities in place, we might have a very small window, maybe a month or so, where we do the approvals from our end. But we're expecting that within a month, that all this should be able to be done through the Kentrade NESWIS, National Electronic Single Window System.
So within a month, that's where we should be happening. But right now is
but right now is through the e-citizen system. But as I mentioned, within a week, I think from 13th, we should be able to roll out the Kentrade system, which is completely integrated with e-citizen.
Okay. Thank you.
PRO
Another question
is a producer responsibility organization. I'm seeing a question from Samson Nyamaino. Producer responsibility organization. So that is what a PRO means.
Okay. So the other question I'd like you to, because I'm just trying to summarize the questions that we don't do one by one, because sometimes 5 people would ask the same question. But maybe just one more question before you start the presentation as you set it up, which is...
Can you see my screen now?
It's coming up. It's loading.
It's loading.
Yeah.
So I think for the member who asked what a PRO is, we are trying to explain simply that to be able to manage your end-of-life products, your responsibility can be carried out by yourself, or you can offload those responsibilities to an extended producer responsibility scheme. PAC Pro is an example of an EPR scheme, and therefore they are a PRO. So allow me to run through this presentation because I see most of these questions are already covered within the presentation. So it will be a very quick presentation, really with regard to control of plastic materials in Kenya. Can you see my screen?
Not yet. No, it's not.
How about now?
Yes. Now we can.
Okay. We are then looking at a number of enabling pieces of legislation that have put us in place. But through the Environmental Management and Coordination Act, the institution serves to supervise and coordinate all matters relating to the environment in Kenya. And of course, to implement environment policy on behalf of government. Roll it down. So we have given some of the relevant pieces of legislations that your members might want to acquaint themselves with. The EIA/audit regulations of 2003, the waste management regulations, the plastics regulations, and EPR regulations of 2024. And you will see that the interface between the plastics regulations that we're talking about and the EPR regulations largely also lies on the issue of the EPR requirements, which are embedded in both of these regulations. So this is a bit of the historical context that these regulations were gazetted for the plastics, that is 2024. And the EPR also regulations came in 2024. And basically the objective is to manage and control plastic packaging material. And we have mentioned already that this management of this can be done either individually or collectively. So your extended producer responsibility can be done either by yourself as an entity or through a PRO. And the objective is really towards achieving zero waste. So the question is, what are we trying to do? What is the end game with this kind of regulations? They're supposed to act as an incentive and a disincentive. So minimization, and therefore we are not looking at this as a really, as many might imagine, that it's a revenue stream. If you do your packaging smartly, properly, the way you want, you should be able to minimize the amount of packaging that you need to deploy, and therefore, of course, the attendant fees that you need to pay. So the ban on single-use plastic carrier bags still remains in place. So objectives and applications, of course, to a framework for management and control of plastic materials. And as I mentioned already, look for environmentally friendly materials. Those of you who are aware of the history of plastics, of course, they have played an important role globally to promote some of the conveniences that we enjoy nowadays. And that is not something that we are not alive to. We are alive to that matter. So we are saying that these regulations apply to plastic bags and packaging materials and plastic packaging materials on imported products. So in the event you want to undertake any of these activities with regard to plastics importations, usage, manufacture, and so on, you need to apply to NEMA for a license accompanied by EPR. EPR stands for Extended Producer Responsibility Plan, and the fees. For those of you who attended the other session the other day, then the EPR plan envisaged here is quite similar to the EPR plan envisaged in the EPR regulations. Specify the informations that should be treated as confidential. We understand some of you have data and information that you don't want disclosed to the public. You can also share that with us. We understand that you are in business, and we're supposed to be able to give you a decision within 21 days. The licenses we issue, the validity is for 12 months. And you as sector players need to ask us to help us, because we are seeing quite a bit of, again, requests for more applications for licensing for various applications of plastics, whereas the objective was minimization. And therefore, we request that because you are also innovators, we want to look for these suitable alternatives rather than trying to look for opening up room for deployment of more plastic packaging. So, of course, we don't spend too much time on this, but there are penalties possible under these regulations. The possibility to suspend, revoke, or cancel licenses if any of these infringements are noticed. But as you're aware, we also operate in a fair environment. In the event you feel that you have made an application or any of our actions you feel aggrieved by them, then of course we have the National Environment Tribunal, which has powers to review any decisions that NEMA makes. So what are the criteria for authorization? Recyclability is important, and I would ask that post this engagement, please take some time to look at the plastics regulations. They are an example of a very short regulation. I don't know even if it runs to 10 pages. So it's easy to understand. So if we're also looking at public health and product preservation, because we understand the applications where alternatives don't work well. Those of you who have been on this journey with us, we have tried, for example, to push bread and bakery issues towards paper and so on, and we saw that they don't preserve the moisture and the softness of the products. So also for security measures, for water and dust proofing, product integrity, and of course issues of overpacking, for export, and so on. So we use this criteria in arriving at our decisions as to whether to give the license or not. So an EPR plan, I think PACPRO have been educating their membership on what this should look like. So you can maintain an EPR plan to support the collection, reduction, recovery, treatment, and disposal of your plastic materials. You need to share the plan with NEMA for approval. And as we have mentioned before, you can exercise your EPR responsibilities either individually or jointly through a producer responsibility organization. So these are the components of an EPR plan, and I don't want to dwell too much on this. because these ones are also very well articulated within the regulations, the plastics regulations and the EPR regulations. And I believe also you can look at our website. Some of the questions that have been raised over and over again, we are also using them to populate our frequently asked questions on our website, so that then it is easy to refer to these documents if you need the clarity. So this is still an aspect, an element of the EPR plan, which is the requirements are very well articulated. Of course, we also, with these applications of plastics, there are requirements for labeling. And these ones, of course, are also quite clearly articulated, and I don't need to overemphasize the same. So the application procedure, of course, you open an account using your KRA PIN. Then, of course, this applies to manufacturers, exporters, importers, and users of plastic packaging materials. You activate the link sent by NEMA through your email, apply for the license, then within 21 days, we should be able to give you a decision. So these application fees, the structures are like that, and I would probably ask you to more or less look at the table 2, which is more broken down than the one, the top one, which is clustered. So we have 1 to 50,000. The other one should be starting at 50,001 to 100,000, and so on and so forth. And the fees are itemized to your right column. So, of course, these EPR regulations, as we mentioned, they are anchored under the Sustainable Waste Management Act of 2024. And we have already mentioned at length how people should bear their EPR obligations to reduce population and environmental damage for products that we introduce into the Kenyan market. We keep on asking ourselves that are these regulations meant to serve NEMA or the country or NEMA employees? You remember, in our ordinary lives, we are also Kenyan citizens, and we also need this material. So the country belongs to all of us, so it should not be looked at as over-regulation, but looking at moving the country towards a more sustainable approach. Of course, we need to leave this environment so that our future generations can also enjoy the goods and services that it provides. So EPR's, of course, objectives and the scope are like that, and of course provide a framework for the establishment and of operation of a mandatory EPR scheme. And the key principles here in environmental management is the polluter pays principle. We already mentioned that EPR covers producers, EPR schemes, and all the products that are itemized in the first schedule. And definitions are done, what a producer, who a producer is, what an EPR scheme is, and what a product is. So you can look at all these items from category 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as I mentioned, all these are currently already onboarded with the source code on the Kentrade system. And therefore, once you pay, I think there should be no fear that there'll be delays in the process. It's fully automated and faster than what we had before. So, of course, this I've already mentioned how you set up your EPR obligations. And this is still really more or less an overemphasis of the issues that I mentioned already. So these are schematic presentation of how this works. And I believe this is one of the presentations I saw PACPRO do to their memberships the other day at Ole Sereni. So I'm sure many of you are quite conversant with this kind of flowchart. So EPR producer registration, of course, this is one of, these are the requirements like you do with any other thing, certificate from Register of Companies, quantities of products and so on, product certification with KEBS and so on, proof of payment of requisite fee, 5,000, and an application decision done within 21 days. So EPR, import certificate fee, I think those ones who will be doing importation, this applies to importers of finished products. And I think this definition of what a product is has already been done. The application is per consignment, and you can do this on eCitizen online at the moment. I've already articulated the arrangements that we currently have with Customs, Trade, and eCitizen to make this a seamless process. And I believe that once we go live, you will see that it will be, it's not an issue that would hamper business by way of delays. I believe, I think with your permission, if you want one of these days, we can show you a dummy run of how this system will work. So Joyce already touched on the fee is 150 for packaging. Hazardous is the same. Electrical and electronic equipment, category 3, category 4, end-of-life motor vehicles, which is not part of the discussion today, and 5. So today's the topic of discussion today was mostly on plastics packaging, which we have dealt with before. So thank you. I will then stop at this point. Ayub, do you want to say one or two things before we ask this, we open this floor for a Q&A?
Yes, that would be good. Thank you. So as Dr. Macharia sets up, we will listen to his remarks, and then we will group all the questions that we've received, because some of you are asked different questions, but they really are touching on the same topic. So we will present the questions for the speakers or the technical team to go through. So Dr. Macharia, you have the floor, and please keep your questions coming. Please use the Q&A section and not the chat option. We've actually just turned that off so that it's easier for us to bring in the questions together so that we can ask on your behalf, so that we don't spend too much time. So the floor is ready for you, Daktari.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. Am I audible?
Yes, good morning.
Yes, Daktari, you're audible.
Thank you. Now, can I be allowed to share my screen? I have 2 slides to share. Something that David has not shared.
Okay. There you go.
Yes. There it is.
And if you're in a position to turn on your camera, I know some people would also like to see you. If not, that's okay.
Definitely. Definitely. Have I shared? Is it good, visible? I can't see from the side.
No, Daktari, we are seeing the presentation is not what we are seeing. We are seeing your other windows.
Oh, well, yes, because I want to share this one.
Ah, okay.
What about now?
There we go.
Now?
Yes, it's come up.
Okay.
It's come up. Yeah.
Thank you. So I go out. Okay. Just have a few slides on EPR enforcement.
Yeah.
What we are doing. I think David has shared these slides, but I want to clarify a few things. One of them is some people have been asking about the process and the process of. So I have not shared my screen. Just a moment. Let me share my camera. Is it you? I wanted to share I wanted you to see me. Okay. I'm trying to, sorry for this. I'm trying to put on my camera. Thank you. Sorry, I'm in another meeting outside Nairobi. Now, where's presentation? Please confirm that you can see my full screen.
Yes, we
Yes.
can, Daktari.
Okay, now I just wanted to clarify something that some of you may have questions on. And there have been questions about
Daktari, your connection broke.
Maybe you can switch off the video.
Yeah.
Yeah, then
Okay, so as we check his connection, Newton, if you can just unmute, I will ask one question which has been asked a lot, which is, what are some of the ways we can, just a question on a company that has very many SKUs, what is the advice from the authority in terms of a seamless manner that would fasten their process of registration on both import and EPR? So Newton, you can just unmute.
Sorry, I go on.
Oh, you're back. Okay. Karibu.
I hope my presentation is still visible.
We can actually share it for you. I think that might be easier.
No,
So we'll
I have added something.
Oh, you've added something. Okay. Okay.
When David was presenting, I was listening and I felt that there is something that he missed.
Okay.
That is the one I wanted to clarify. So this is a short one. So David has presented this screen. I just wanted to comment a bit about it. Some people have been asking if I pay 150 to NEMA, then should I go ahead and pay other EPR fees? And I want to clarify the process that first of all, you must register with NEMA as a producer, and you must also secure authority to use plastic packaging. So if you are importing items that are packaged using plastics, you must get authority from NEMA to use that plastic packaging. That is the purpose of this forum. From NEMA, there are those two licenses. Now, after that, you also have to acquire. If you are an importer, you pay the 150 shillings at the port. You pay to NEMA for post EPR waste management. But local producers are not paying that. And that is why they are alone. They are not paying the 150. And then together, the importers and the local producers, you enter to the next phase. You join a PRO, or you run your own PRO, as David has explained. So therefore, you can see the payment is twice. You pay the 150, that is not enough. This is for post EPR. And then EPR is here on this after joining the PRO. I think Joyce explained at the beginning that we are doing enforcement within the supermarkets, the retail outlets. And at the retail outlet, they are looking for evidence that you are compliant based on this scheme. So you need these two licenses from NEMA, that is number 1 and 2. If you are using plastic packaging, then you need that authorization. You give it to the manager of the supermarket, and then you need this registration from the PRO, and then this regular payment of EPR fee per volume introduced to the market to cater for waste management. This is very important. We have seen, we have run EPR for the last 3-4 years, or as voluntarily, and some of the producers, what they are doing is they register with the PRO, and then they don't do anything else. So PROs even had no money even to pay their staff, leave alone collecting waste from the environment. So this makes EPR lose meaning, and therefore the latest clearance from the PRO is therefore mandatory when you are placing your items on the market, and this clearance should not be more than 2 months old. And this serves as evidence of payment of the EPR fee. Now, Jace mentioned about the formula that we have circulated. The EPR regulations has prescribed the environmental criteria to be used when calculating the EPR fee. And we circulated all the details, the PROs. I hope they have circulated to you. Before we got to this table, we had explained where all these variables are coming from. And so you must pay for waste handling, which involves payment for waste pickers. If your item is collected by waste pickers, you must pay the aggregators for storage, sorting, baling, and residual waste handling. You must pay transporters, recyclers. There is a component for paid, and then incinerators, if you're using an incinerator, and then your PRO has some costs that they go through, and then you have to pay for that. So this formula, the PROs are that they are working with it, as James explained. So they'll give you the figures as per this formula. Now, why is this formula very important, and why are we insisting on it? You see, we are the generation today. We are the generation that is in this world today, and we have our children. What kind of environment are we going to leave behind to them? So it may be painful to pay this money, but we are taking care of the future generation. And if we don't pay this, there will be a gap. There will be a loan, some debt to be paid by the future generations. That is why this is important. Finally, this is also important, the penalties. When we go to the supermarkets, we are using these penalties. Yeah? Nobody should introduce into the market a is not listed in the register, and the authority will prohibit the producer from placing the affected product and packaging in the market. So these are some of the legal powers that we have, which we are employing. And so we request you kindly, producers, that so as you approach the market, make sure you have these clearances at the retail level, because you will not place your item on the market if that one is not done. So far, we have had engagements with the retail outlets. We have had letters, exchange of letters with RITRA, KEPSA, CAM, Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We have had virtual meetings with them and with yourselves. And we gave a grace period from December to February 2026 to transition, so that you acquire this documentation. And on 2nd March 2026, we started that is yesterday, we started visiting the retail outlets, and they were not compliant. So we agreed with them that by 6th of March, there is one document that we are missing, that is the clearance, the monthly clearance from the PROs. As I said, it must be not more than 2 months old, the clearance. And so this is what was missing, and we give them a deadline up to Friday to acquire the document. And then next week, we are back again to first. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you so much,
very much. Yeah. Sorry, Gadani, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think that's really helpful. And I just want us to listen to one more entity before we have a collective Q&A session, which is a representative from the Ports Authority. Now, we appreciate that there are different agencies that levy fees and taxes and other payments at the ports. So we'll listen to Charles Kisewa, who will give us his remarks for about 5 minutes, and then now we can have a collective session to discuss some of the things that have been discussed by the two directors. And at the point when you need to leave, Daktari and Dongare, then you are welcome to just let us know, and then we'll continue with the technical officers. So I'll hand over to Charles, and then we can continue. Thank you very much. Karibu, Charles.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, this is Charles from the port that is at KPA. And just to reiterate that Kenya Ports Authority is supportive of the initiative regarding compliance of the regulations which have come out. And at the port or at KPA, just something we need to make it clear that we have noticed, we have actually appreciated that the right arrangement has been put in place to ensure the collection of the relevant charges through KRA and Kentrade. Reason being that before an entry is shared with us, most of the agencies which levy various charges have to dispense with that part in conjunction with mainly Kentrade before that information is relayed to KRA, and then KRA then can share the entry. That means they are more or less done with all statutory charges, fees, taxes before they share with us. For us, once that information is shared from KRA, we go ahead and collect our port charges and deliver the consignment. So we are actually aligned to the direction that has been taken, and just to guarantee that we'll give you support at the port to ensure that the compliance is adhered to. Thank you very much for allowing us to participate, and we'll keep on participating just to make sure that we are on board. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much as well. So we'll take a few questions, and then at some point I will also group the questions for the CEO in terms of the role of the PRO, because that's a question that's come up across a lot. So we have 3 major groups of questions, which is 1, how do you register and how many things do we need to register for? And then are there any exemptions? And then lastly, what is the difference and what should I expect from a PRO? So those 3 have come up. So I will ask a few questions, and then either Dr. Masharia or David Ongare and team, you can answer. And then when we get into the PRO session, I'll present those for the CEO to address together with her second remarks. Okay, so I'll group all the import questions together, the ones that we've received so far. One is to talk about the export processing zones. So, sorry, I think I've also shared the document with you that you can go through. But could you touch on what export processing manufacturers should do and how that applies to them if they are importing just for purposes of export, if they are in an EPZ zone, and if there are any exemptions for companies that have any recyclable or they're using biodegradable material or compostable packaging. If you could address that question. Okay, your hand is up. I think you should be able to speak. You can unmute. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Gadon. I probably start generally with the registration. I think you had initially asked about the SKUs. In the event that one has multiple SKU, please register using the main product, because we also know that the KEBS, for instance, the KEBS SM does not detail the SKUs. So try and list the main products and not to go into the many SKUs that are owned by a company. Then for the EPZs, this is a very unique scenario. It would be important for them to formally write to the authority, so that if EPZA writes to the authority, we can clarify and the same can be shared to the members. So the guidance for the EPZ facilities, let them write to NEMA, because as the law is currently, there's no clear exemption for the EPZ entities. But if these facilities right, we can also do a collective document to all entities within the EPZ, because we've had even challenges when it comes to compliance with the plastic packaging. They really raise concerns on the bit that they're exempted from KEBS, but their product are for export. So which is this particular standard that we need to work with? It would be important that now that EPZA is meant to facilitate the investor around, let them formally write to the authority, and we will gladly respond within the shortest time possible.
Okay.
Then is there any other question, Gadoni, that I would take before as we wait for the others?
Yes.
Jen?
With regards to, just you've sort of touched on it, but could you clarify on exemptions in terms of if someone has already biodegradable packaging, or if there's a way to apply for the exemption letter, the timelines specifically for that. And then the last one is there a way that, this is a new one, the import fees can be reclaimed or offset?
Okay, reclaim. For the exemption, if we are to go by the law has not specified any exemption. But like I've indicated, some of these matters can be handled on a case-by-case basis, and that is why it would be critical for an applicant, if you strongly feel that your operations do not generate any wastes that needs to be managed, then you could prove your case and write to the authorities seeking to be exempted from the same. But as it is right now, there is no entity that is exempted from plastics if you're using plastics, or EPR if you're a producer, as defined in the Sustainable Waste Management Act. I think the ultimate, the bottom line, what we need to ask ourselves, any product that you introduce in the market, does it result to any waste that needs to be managed? If the answer is yes, then we just need to put in place mechanisms to manage the resultant waste. If you have capacity, do it individually. If you think you need assistance, the EPR schemes really come in handy. Thank you, Gadoni.
Okay. Yes, one last question, then I'll open it a bit. So just to frame the questions we're asking in this particular window is questions pertaining to the import fee and registration, and then we'll move into another section regarding EPR with the PRO and with the suppliers and with the supermarkets. So any questions we're tackling in this moment is regarding import. So I'll ask this one question, then I will give some time for the industry associations to also give the questions on behalf of their groups. So this last question from my side is regarding relief material, medical samples, research samples. Just if you can talk about if they fall in a particular bracket or they need to go through the normal process.
Okay, Zach, I'm also with the EPR technical desk officer. Maybe you would take the bit of samples. Zachary.
Okay.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, PACPRO, for organizing this webinar. Maybe if I can respond to the question
regarding the research samples. As Mr. Soro has explained, currently there are no exemptions in the regulations. And the main question that you need to ask yourselves, do research samples introduce waste into Kenya? If it's packed, yes, it does. Does it fall within the products that are provided for in Schedule 1? If it does, yes, then you need to proceed and comply with all the obligations, starting from registration, the take back scheme. If you need to join a PRO, then you need to join and also fulfill other obligations, because indeed then you become a producer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I'll hand over to, we have Mr. Ogambi from the Shippers Council. We also have Dr. Lillian Wanjiru from the Fertilizer Association of Kenya. And then we have Festus Pole from the East Africa Grain Council. So as they ask their questions, we're hoping that this is a cumulative just position in terms of the associations you represent. So Mr. Ogambi, if you could speak, then you're good to go.
Thank you very much. I want to first register my appreciation to PACPRO and NEMA for organizing this webinar, very helpful. Sorry I joined late, but I've understood part of the presentation. I work for the Shippers Council of Eastern Africa, and a number of our members have asked me some questions which I'd like to pose to this. Number one is, I know there's been a lot of discussion about per item. Are you able to break it down what this entails? Because one of the things that as an association we want to do is to enhance compliance. I want to appreciate the sentiment of the presenter saying that we need to care about the environment. So just like to appreciate what does this per item mean in terms of packaging, so that there's more clarity on this. Number two for me is, do we have a dispute resolution mechanism so that despite there being no exemption in the regulations, then there's an avenue for dispute resolutions that fosters trade facilitation. And then my other question is regard to the processes. It's not clear for a number of our members on what systems going to use it, the Kented system, is it the ICMS, and at what point? So that's something that we'd also like to get a response on. Lastly, and this is important, has NEMA done an impact assessment to businesses on this levy so that we are able to appreciate the intricacies that we may be faced with and provide interventions? I'm happy my friend from KPA has said there'll be no disruption, but it's important for us to appreciate that any delay in approvals that may lead to containers taking too much time at the port is going to be a cost to us. So my question is, what systems are we going to use for the permits? Do you have an impact assessment that can be shared? And then any avenue for dispute resolution? And then just a breakdown on per item. What does it entail? Is it a container? Is it a sack? Is it a pallet? What does it entail? Those are my questions for now. And once again, thank you very much for organizing the webinar. I submit.
Thank you very much. Newton?
Okay, fine. I'm now unmuted. I could go first. Zach will respond to the detailed breakdown on per item. Thanks, Shippers Council representative. We appreciate the concerns and the comments. and the positive input to the process. I would take on ADR, dispute resolution, any mechanisms in place. We wouldn't say that we have a committee as such, but as a government agency, we are open to concerns, and that is why you appreciate the fact that I indicated that there is no express exemption in law, but we are open to these concerns being raised formally, and that's why initially I indicated that we welcome the collective EPZ document for consideration by the authority, and any other member who's aggrieved. As an association, it would be easier to really do some written guidance on any concern. But of course, the worst case scenario, the law provides for other dispute resolution mechanisms, which when if a client is really aggrieved or you feel that the concerns are not addressed by the authority to the satisfaction of the individual or the association, then the worst or the best case scenario in that case is to seek redress, where both parties now will be taken to task. So yes, we are open to resolve disputes at our level and to the best that we can, but then the law provides for other mechanisms. The impact assessment, what I would authoritatively say on behalf of the director compliance is that we do not expect any backlog. The measures, adequate measures have been put in place, and that is why the director in his remarks indicated that we are moving to the single window system. As it is currently, there are enough staff who are on standby to ensure that all applications are cleared on daily basis. So we can assure you that there will be not a single delay that will attract demurrage or unnecessary delay to clearance. So I'll welcome Zach to also do for the bit of the impact assessment. If it's a documented if it's a document, and I'm glad that one of the sessions was undertaken in Mombasa. Now, NEMA took a regulatory impact assessment for the EPR regulations, and this was concluded last year before the full rollout of the process. The document is available. I need to confirm if it's on our website, but yes, we have a regulatory impact analysis that looked at the technical, the political, environmental, socio-economic. All these pillars were extensively undertaken, and stakeholders were also incorporated, or the views of stakeholders were incorporated in this rollout. So the document is available if it's a document, but I believe from the practical angle, we have put in place adequate mechanisms to ensure that this does not result to any delays when it comes to clearance by importers. Thank you. Zach?
Thank you so much, the representative from the Shippers Council, for that set of questions. As for the system that we are going to use to make the application, as our director had indicated earlier, currently we are on eCitizen, that is for the EPR import certificate and producer registration. Both of them, we are there. However, we are working with the Kentrade, KRA, and the eCitizen to onboard this particular requirement on Kentrade system and the ICMS system. And that one we expect to come out soon. It will be communicated to you once we go live, but we expect it very soon, such that we make it easy for you to comply with that particular requirement. There was a question on the item. As the CEO of PACPRO had indicated, that NEMA has had various discussions with KEPSA, a very consultative one on what this item is. If you need to look at the regulations seem to focus on the packaging of the products. There are various categories there, from category 1 to category 5. And we are talking of packaging, the cartons, we are talking of the glass, we are talking of the plastics and all that. So we are in agreement that this will be the bulk packaging for the packaged products. For example, if you have cartons, you have belts, You have cases, you have drums that will cost 150 shillings. We have other categories that have standalone items, except especially category 4, which talks of locomotives, automobiles. You can talk of one vehicle, you can talk of one refrigerator, and so forth. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I've seen we have 2 hands up, but I'll just finish off with the industry representatives and then we can do a few hands that are up. So Walter and Crispin, I do see your hands, but I'd like to have Dr. Lillian Wanjiro, who is the CEO of the Fertilizer Association of Kenya, to ask the collective questions from the Fertilizer Association. As she is setting up, you can unmute Walter because his hand has been up and he can ask his question. All right, Walter.
Yes, good morning, Kadoni.
Good morning.
As I said, my name is Walter Watila. I'm calling from ACZ, particular rock plant ACZ. My question on EPR, I have 2 questions. My first question is that, all consignments coming to ACZ, Special Economic Zones, are exempted from PVOC in terms of KEBS, are not expected to be inspected at port of entry. How is this going to be, are we going to be affected in terms of this EPR program? Because most of these goods come to ACZ for manufacturing or re-export to destination. As you know, the way ACZ is that this is considered a foreign place. It's not the goods are not come directly into the local market. Is this are these concerns being are they going to be affected by this EPR? Then my second question, we have promotional materials like brochures that are always covered in terms of plastic bags. Are these also going to be affected? Thank you.
Gadoni, if you like, could quickly respond to that.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah, thanks, Walter from the Special Economic Zone. Just like the export processing zone, I would request that you engage CESA to write to our CEO on the same so that we have a single communication to all entities within the Special Economic Zone. Then the bit of promotional material, if they contain plastics, the law again does not exempt. As long as they are packed using plastics, you will be forced to get a license for the same.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Lillian, the floor is ready for you. I think you might have dropped off. So as we wait for you, once you're ready and you rejoin, then you can just ask your question. So I would like us to also hear from Crispin Okinge. Your hand is up. You can unmute. Crispin Okinge. Okay.
Yes, sorry. So, I think my question goes to Newton. Based on what our chairman have asked in terms of the item, every time we raise this concern or we ask this question, you guys refer us to the Act
we've read the act and we are very conversant with it, but the act is not clear. And that's what we always seek a clarity. For example, when I do imports of the alcohol beverages from South Africa, we stuff the container with the boxes. We don't do palletizing. So I was encouraged that for you to actually minimize on your cost, you rather palletize the items so that the 150 will be charged on items that are palletized. The same question was raised last week with people who do consolidation. So this aspect of item, could you kindly just be a bit open and clear on how we should be advised, probably on how we pack our items? Because that is where there's a concern.
Thank you, Crispin. Zach is going to elaborate. Zach. Yeah, Crispin, thank you for the question. As that it has been indicated, these regulations focus on the waste. And if you look at category 1 and category 2, it talks of packaging, and it is very specific on what that packaging is. If your product is packed in cartons, for example, it's packed in plastics, composite paper, glass, and cardboard. So the main focus in that category is the packaging, because we want to reduce the amount of waste that is coming in. If I could use in quotes, dumping waste in Kenya, I've used it in quotes. So the idea is, the philosophy is to reduce the amount of that waste that is coming in. And we could encourage members, if you could pack in the largest packaging that is available. I could use an example. If you can pack your product in a 25 kg bag, for example, you pay 150 shillings. You package the same in 50 kg and a 90 kg bag, you still charge 150 shillings. So the philosophy here is to reduce the amount of waste. Now, you talked of something to do with the pallet. The pallet, as to say, it is a convenient way of transportation, not necessarily packaging per se, because inside the pallet, there are packages. That is what we are interested in. I could encourage you members that you start thinking, how do you pack your products? Do you pack in small packages, many of them, or one big one, such that you also reduce the cost in terms of what you pay in terms of the import fee? At the same time, you could have helped us in reducing the amount of waste that we introduce into Kenya, because that is the focus of the regulations. So the 150 shillings would be on the packaging. We are also aware of, remember, even when the director talked, we are Kenyans at the end of the day, we are the consumers out there. We are aware you can't charge, for example, that 1 unit inside a carton. So that is why we were in agreement that we go for the bulk packaging, such that we reduce the amount of waste that is coming in. But in terms of pallet, the pallet is a convenient way of transportation, unless the product themselves are directly packed in the pallet without other packages inside the pallet. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll have Dr. Lillian. I think you're well situated now. You can unmute.
Hi, Gadon. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Gadon, okay, thank you. Apologies for the alien challenges. So thank you, Gadoni, and first to appreciate PAC Pro and other partners that are organizing this. I think the sessions are very, very helpful to bring clarity on these issues of EPR and plastic waste management. And I think my questions were already addressed by the first person who was asking the question. I think it was a Grain Council or the Shippers Council. I'm not sure which is which. And one of the ones that keeps coming again and that has already been asked, I think, 2 times, is especially that one, the clarity on on the issue of item. Because like you're saying it's a bulk packaging, but within the bulk packaging, for example, in a carton, you have smaller packaging inside. I'm assuming it's just a bulk package, the bigger carton that will be charged, regardless of whether inside the bigger package, there are other packaging inside. I would like clarity. And I think it would be good to have these open sessions and room for clarity each and every time, because I think this will keep coming up and up again and again. And also thanks for the clarification and assurance that in terms of importation and registrations and all those systems, that it will be very, very, there will be no delays. But the question I have, what happens if there are delays? Because, I mean, this is bound to happen. These are systems and we know tech and all that. Bound to have some delays. So my question is, how will that be handled if delays occur due to the issues of the EPR registration and all that are required at the import at the port of entry? And then my other question is to you, Gadoni, and your team on whether PACPro already have an approved extended producer responsibility plan in place, and whether it has been approved by NEMA, or if not, what is the current approval process? And then in terms of stakeholder participation in that EPR plan, and if it's already there, if you'd be willing to share that with us. I think that's what I have on my end. I'm sure we have members on the group. We'll keep collecting these questions and sharing as they come up. Thank you so much, Gadoni, once more.
Thank you so much. Nema, if you can respond to those questions, and then I'll group all the questions for the CEO to address, CEO of PACPro. So over to you, Nema.
Okay, thank you so much. This is Zachary. Regarding the bulk packaging, yes, it is. And we encourage you to pack in the biggest that you can, such that you reduce the waste, so you also pay less. That is up to secondary level. What we are encouraging, in fact, if you were to look at the regulations, the obligations of producers, not PROs, but producers specifically, which the PRO may do on your behalf. One of it is to design and redesign the packaging material to be environmentally friendly, and also do research about issues regarding packaging and all that. So indeed, proceed and package in the biggest that you can, the bulk packaging that is, for especially category 1 and the category 2 products, and the category 5, there are some products there, for example, the diapers, the sanitary towels and all that. So back in the largest, you talked something to do with the delays. As indicated earlier, the authority is aware of that, and it has put mechanisms in place to ensure that we fast track the applications that come our way. What we could encourage you is to apply at the earliest opportunity when it arises, such that we can also process your application earliest. There is, like, for example, the producer registration, which is one of, I would fail to understand why by now maybe a producer has not made that particular application, and it is one of. So make it the earliest opportunity that you can. We do away with that application, then you concentrate now on the EPR import certificate, and we undertake to fast track the application such that we don't delay you in terms of making your imports and impacting negatively on your businesses. Thank you.
Okay, so I can still see the two hands, but I'd like to pause on the questions. So Moses and Daisy, if you could post your questions on the chat so that as we do this next segment, we can address them. But I'd like the CEO to take the floor, and I will group her questions together with as she presents on the role of a PRO and what our value proposition is to you, as well as what is the difference between an individual and a compliance scheme. There's a few questions where people have asked, if I am part of a PRO, what is my PRO doing for me? If I am, can I do it on my own? So you can just take that, but you could also help us appreciate the difference between what is a producer. I know we've talked about it, but I think it keeps coming up in people wanting to know, am I the one? Am I the importer? Am I the producer? Is it me who's paying the cost? Is it somebody else? And I know Nema has touched on this, so I think it's good to hear it from the PRO's perspective. And then these are more now situated within our operational plan as you talk about the EPR plan, which is kind of frameworks. Do they integrate the informal recycling sector, particularly waste pickers? Do we have economic incentives on deposit refund systems? And what does is Pack Pro private? Are we a collective scheme? Are we a body? Are we regulated by the government? That would also be good. So over to you, Joyce, as Sydney prepares to come and do the registration process.
So I want to allow first Daisy, Moses, and Suraj to quickly ask their questions, simply because so that we don't have a break between myself and Sydney, because we're just going to be focusing on the PRO, and then from then on, yeah. So maybe just to do a quick Daisy, Moses, Suraj, then I'll pick it up from there.
Okay. Daisy, I think you have the floor, or have you dropped off? Suraj and Moses and Thenge. Daisy, you should be able to speak. If you're speaking, we can't hear you. Just unmute. Moses, I can see you can also unmute. Are you able to speak? Okay, Suraj, are you able to ask your question?
They're all muted, Gadoni. They need to be
Yes.
unmuted, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I had two questions. One was when I was reviewing how to get the NEMA import permit, we already have our EPR producers registration and everything. One of the documents required to facilitate your import permit is the BL, shipping BL. Now, the shipping BL we receive 1 or 2 days after the shipment has been shipped, or whether it's by sea or air freight. And once we submit that, it says it can take up to 14 to 21 days to get the permit, but the container can even be here in 7-8 days. If it's air freight, it can even be here in 2 days or the next day. So this means we will have to pay heavy damages. So what do NEMA have? How quickly, or is there any other document we can use as opposed to the BL to make sure we're already paying this extra fees and then not to have damages to deal with? That was the first question. The second question was on regarding with increasing our carton sizes or packaging sizes. So we, and I've spoken to a collective of importers, the two biggest issues we have with this, one is the suppliers stroke multinationals we deal with will not change packaging just for a small market like Kenya. And number two, in the market, there is a accepted pack size already, which has been there for years for various different products. For example, diapers, biscuits, whatever we're talking about. The moment we, let's say, double the size of our carton or our bale, we become more expensive than the local manufacturer, who will not have to change his packaging. And we're already put at a disadvantage on this. A, we pay 150 shillings. B, we have to double our pack size to try and reduce the cost on us. but then we become uncompetitive because the local manufacturer is still going to have maintain the same pack size. So when it comes to trading, the traders will automatically pick the box which is cheaper. So has this been considered? These are my two questions.
Thank you so much, Newton and Zach.
Thank you so much. As I indicated earlier, these regulations is about the West, and it is premised on the polluter pays principle. So those who are incurring the cost are those who pollute the environment. And therefore, what we encourage is that you reduce the amount of waste as much as possible. Yes, we are aware some multinationals may not change the packaging material. I was giving an opinion for those who are able, if there are bigger packages available out there that you can import in bigger sizes than in small sizes, please do that such that you can reduce the amount you pay in terms of the EPR import fee. But if you cannot, because that is what the multinationals are doing, then all you need to do is to pay fairly for what you have introduced into the Kenyan market under the polluter pays principle. In terms of delays and the documents needed for you to make an import certificate application, as I'd indicated earlier, is that we are aware that we, as an authority, we don't have to cause any delay in terms of doing business. And we have put mechanisms in place to fast track the applications, especially for the EPR import certificate. And as we speak, I am aware for those who have made applications, they can attest. We have been able to clear within a day. The 21 days is what is provided for in the regulations. But of course, we are not going to exhaust the 21 days. Those applications, and indeed, some of the applicants have been able to receive their certificates within an hour or so of making an application. And we undertake to fast track their applications at the earliest opportunity they are on our end. Number two, as we had indicated, we are transiting to the single window system very soon. Much of the information that may be needed, for example, in terms of attachments, let's talk, for example, the IDF and other documents, of course, now will be available on that single window system, and therefore we'll be able to move very fast in terms of processing your application. Thank you.
So maybe just to clarify, is he had asked about some documents that are only given at the point of landing. So the BL, there's also the customs declaration. Could you clarify on those? Because the 1 hour is still something that some people would still be anxious about.
Currently, the bill of lading is optional on the e-citizen platform. So they can be able to provide other documents that are available. But most important for us, we have the packing list because we need to know how many packages. We are interested in the number of packages that you are introducing into the Kenyan market. So currently, the bill of lading is optional on the e-citizen platform.
Yeah, okay. And the customs declaration? Zach? There's an additional document. The customs declaration is mandatory, but that is also received once the goods arrive.
All right, as indicated earlier, we have undertaken to fast track the applications. Within
Okay.
most of them, actually, I can attest because I sit in that division.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the applications that we have received in terms of the EPR import certificate have been processed within a day.
Okay.
We are very keen on that. So even if the goods have arrived, you don't have to worry. Make your application. We'll be able to process your application at the earliest opportunity, and in most cases within the day of application. And as I've indicated, we are transitioning to the Kentrade system, where now much of those documents we will be able even to monitor again from our side which document you have submitted, for example, to the single window system, to KRA, and all that. We'll be able to monitor from our side without requiring you now to attach.
Okay. Thank you. Let's hear the Suraj. I don't know if your hand is still up, but let's just hear all the questions together before we answer. So we'll listen to Moses, and then Jew, and then Daisy, and then I can see Suraj and Walter's hands are up again. So if your questions are not yet answered, you can just go ahead. Suraj?
Yeah, I just had a follow up on what the reply I got. I understand about the polluter pays principle, but most of the people on this call will agree. In most of the industries we all deal with, the local manufacturers are probably the biggest polluters because they do the biggest volumes. So why does all the burden of this 150 shillings on finished product fall solely on importers?
Okay. All right. So there's one question on the burden falling only on importers. Moses, what is your question? You have the floor. Moses, you can just unmute. As Jew Ochola as well. And Walter, I think Zach, if you could unmute Moses Ntenge, Jew Ochola, Walter. Okay, as that is happening, maybe.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Gadoni.
Okay.
Thank you, Gadoni. I just wanted a clarification on what Okinge said on choosing. We need to choose like the biggest packaging material. For industry like sugar, industry, rice, and fertilizer, you don't have that options. You're either shipping 25 or 50 at maximum, and a container, you're having a container of 560 bags in a container, you're bringing in 50 containers. And this, in terms of cost impact on people who are bringing fertilizer, sugar, and rice, I think we need to reconsider on this because it's going to be a huge cost on these people who are bringing sugar, rice, and fertilizer. Because they can only bring in 25 kg at maximum 50 in a container, because this is the way KRA have defined. You cannot bring in a container should not exceed like 26 tons a container. So did they consider people who are bringing bagged goods, especially sugar, rice, and fertilizer? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Jew, are you able to speak? Jew Ochola? Moses Ntenge? Okay, I also saw Mary Mburu had her hand up.
Yes, can I
Thank
speak?
you. Sorry.
Yes, Jew. Yes, please.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so I'm the one who has some question on research samples and importations of such, and how this will be applicable for them. So I think I got some feedback, but I'd wanted more clarity. Maybe just to give a situation where you import many samples at different time points, and so yeah, there are different shipments, different samples, and the samples, they're like in plastic vials, and most of them, of course, after doing the research, you don't also you don't dispose of them, so maybe they are not waste as such. So I just wanted clarity whether EPR certificate would apply in such situations. And so then if it applies, for example, if you have so many vials and this you end up, packaging this vial in maybe one big package as a box or a bigger package, will that be considered as a one package? So it's only 150 shillings that are required in such a case. And then the last question is that if the EPR certificate is then obtained for this many importations, different time points, is it possible that you just use the same certificate for the different time points that you import the samples, if at all they are applicable for this kind of research samples? Thank you very much.
Okay, so we'll take Mary's question and then we can answer those ones. Mary?
Thank you, Gathoni. I think I just want to get a clarification because I know for most of the time we are talking about the finished products, but also for the local manufacturers who have to bring in a bit of imported raw materials. Is that part of what is required to be paid for the EPR fee, raw material for local production?
Okay. All right, so Nema, I think we can tackle those ones. So you have why the burden only falls for 150 shillings falls on just importers, but now Mary has asked, okay, we also have our raw materials, so does that apply to us and how then does that work? Then the consideration for the fertilizers, grain council in terms of their special bags, and then now is there a collective application that can be done for the research samples and how that would happen?
Thank you so much for the set of questions. I will start with the one who I think is Mr. Ochola, who was asking about whether the certificate can be used for the various imports. This particular certificate is issued per consignment. So if you have a consignment today and you have another consignment next week, that means you are going to make 2 applications. So the certificate is per consignment. He also asked about the vials. The vials, if are packed in a carton, that is now the bulk packaging that I was talking about, then that 150 shillings will go for the bulk packaging and not that small vial. One of it, perhaps it may not cost 150 shillings. So we are going to charge the 150 on the bulk packaging. I think it was Suraj who asked about the local polluters, so to say, and the importers. Yes, local polluters, so to say, local producers are going to pay the EPR fee to the PROs. That is if they choose to go collective way, or they will incur their own cost if they choose to go individual schemes. So they will have to manage the waste from their products, that is at post-consumer stage, and the treatment at end of life for their waste. within the country. As I said earlier, for the importers, the philosophy is to reduce the amount of waste that we import. If we can innovate and locally produce, then it means you are going to forgo some cost. There is one member who asked about the 50 kg, the 25 kg bag for sugar and rice, indeed the essential commodities. In fact, he gave a very good example. I would wonder why you would want to import in 25 kg, pay 150 shillings, when you have a 50 kg bag, you pay still at 150 shillings, unless you want to incur more. So that is the innovation we want around that. Because if you are going to import in 25 kgs, you will import so many of those bags. Even when you want to consider in terms of volume ratio, the 25 kg waste arising from the 25 kg bag will be much more than you were to do 50 kg bags. And for your information, if you are to import the same sugar or rice that is bulk without the packaging, you pay zero. So you have to choose which one you would want to do. I don't know if Osoro, you have anything to add?
Raw material as a finished product.
Then there was a question about the raw materials. Remember, these regulations are about the waste. Finished products for industrial use, what you may consider in your case as raw materials or intermediary goods, they too produce waste. The same way finished products for consumer market do. The focus is on the waste. If you are, for example, to import what you may consider in your case raw materials, is packed in the plastics, is packed in the carton, is packed in the drums and so forth, then you pay zero for it. It ends up in the environment because at the end of the day, it's going to be waste just the same way. Those going into the consumer market produce waste. So there is no exemption for what you consider in your case raw materials, intermediary goods, and finished products. For us, the finished products for the industrial use and for the consumer market have some form of waste, and that is what you are paying for, and that is what we want you to reduce in terms of importation of that particular waste into the Kenyan market. Thank you.
Okay. We have 3 more hands, and then I will ask that we do pause a little bit so that we can hear from the CEO and the registration process. Not to say that we will not take these questions, but just so that we can allow you. There's a bunch of questions that also asked, how do we do the registration process? So we do want to answer those questions. So I will take the last questions from Karen Kithu. Ishmael Bet, who is representing the Association of Kenyan Suppliers, and then we have Veronica. So Karen, the floor is yours. You can just unmute.
Thank you, Gathani. My question is basically in reference to the licensing for packaging material that was imported like now in 2025 that is still in stock. Would that license apply? And does it apply retrospectively, or that will not count?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry,
Veronica?
the other question, one
yes,
minute.
yes,
The other
sorry.
question is, once these packages are imported, these are packaging material, they're used for exports. So will the EPR fee apply for those? Maybe you can look at that. I submit. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I've seen our chair from the Shippers Council has also raised his hand. So as after Veronica, we can have Mr. Ogambi. So Veronica, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kathoni. Let me just labor this point because it's still not clear. Yes. if you have a pallet and inside the pallet there are boxes, yes, how do you count the number of packages? And allow me to use the example of vials, the samples in a vial. There's no way you're going to put vials, and they're very small items, in a box, in a big box. They will essentially perhaps be small packages inside. So it needs to be very clear when you're saying the number of packages. Is it the pallet, the bigger outside, or somebody has to open verification to count the number of packages inside that? I think clarity on that would help. Thank you.
Okay, and maybe I'll just add on to our NEMA colleagues is that what happens if you have many small boxes that end up being put in another big box as the bulk packaging, and the packing list still shows that it counts the number of small boxes inside. So I think you can tackle that. Mr. Ogambi, if you can ask your question, and then we can hear from NEMA.
Thank you very much, and thank you for allowing me to come back. I have two questions. Number one is, we have appreciated the gaps in the regulations. How soon can the regulations be reviewed to incorporate some of the gaps, including the area of exemption? I think that will be important for us to appreciate when the regulations could be reviewed to incorporate the gaps, especially for exemptions, which is critical. Number two, I'd like to appreciate the timelines for going live on the single window. And then lastly, on the same spirit of exemptions, what approach could we deploy to address the social aspect of the regulations, especially in respect to pampers and diapers? You have asked special economic zones, EPZAs, to write to the director. What about for the social aspect in respect to the cost implication that will arise because of this, and which will affect the diapers and also the pampers? Thank you.
Newton, maybe just
Yes.
give Ishmael a chance to ask his question, because he represents the Association of Kenyan Suppliers. They might be similar to what Ogambi will ask or has asked. And maybe Ishmael, can you hear us?
He's probably on another call. He's on hold.
Okay. So maybe can we do Chadni? Gadoni, could you unmute Frederick and Chadni? Okay, then Newton, maybe just go ahead while we unmute the other two.
Okay, sorry. Can I go ahead, or is Newton going?
Yes, go ahead, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so I have a question. If we're importers of medical devices who aren't part of a PRO, we only need to sign up through the NEMA link on eCitizen as an individual for a company as a one-off fee. The second question I have is, the Kenya shillings 150 fee, is it charged per line item based on your pro forma invoice or based on how your items are captured on your IDF? And the last question is, can the permit be applied for and be approved before the cargo arrives at a port, considering it's all air freight? Thank you.
Okay. And Frederick, Fred, your hand was up, as well as Festus from East Africa Green Council.
Yes, my question was regarding to when you are when you're importing goods. Is it possible to make the payment in advance, or you need to have the goods physically available at the site so that you can be able to inspect and know how many packages are there, so that you can be able to confirm the charges which are being paid, so that in the end of the process, we can be able to mitigate the lead time which takes place when you are doing the verification process. That is one. Two, in case there are organizations which have got mechanisms of dealing with the waste management in their own premise, what mechanisms are there in terms of the licensing and charges are involved, so they can be able to either reduce the charges or maybe get exemption from such charges. Third, it relates to the objective of this regulation. As from the onset, you've said that it is a follow-up from the regulation which you had in 2017 in controlling plastics. Now, in the case where maybe you are importing goods and the packages which are involved are environmental friendly products, are they exempted from the charges which are to be imposed to the products which are, as opposed to where the products are plastic nature and those which are environmental friendly? Are there difference in terms of how the charges will be applied, or is just universally applied to all products which are being imported? That's all.
Okay, thank you very much. Nema, you can address those questions as we wait for Ishmael's question.
All right, thank you. Perhaps I start from the last question, which was asking about imported products that are packed in plastics vis-a-vis other packaging materials that are environmentally friendly. Yes, indeed, we encourage producers to pack their product in environmentally friendly packaging materials. Actually, that is one of the obligations that is provided for under Regulation 5. However, there are certain packaging materials that have been included in the regulations, specifically because they pose a challenge in terms of reusability, recycling the same, recovering the same, or the quantities involved, or the risks involved in terms of to the environment, or their hazardous nature. So there are packaging materials, and I can list them. They have been indicated there. We have plastics, we have aluminum, we have composite, we have paper, and it is corrugates, glass, cardboard, and carton as packaging materials. However, when it comes to managing the same, especially under the PROs, or even if you are to do them at an individual scheme, you could agree with me it doesn't cost the same. For example, to recycle a plastic material and carton and so forth. So in terms of innovating, to import or to package your products in an environmentally friendly packaging material, at the end of the day, you are going to reduce the amount of waste, the amount of fee you incur in terms of managing that particular product. So we encourage you to package in environmentally friendly packaging materials, but then be aware which packaging materials are regulated under the regulations. And I would urge members that they download the EPR regulations and familiarize themselves with the first schedule, just to be aware which packaging materials are regulated, at the same time which products directly are regulated under the EPR regulation, especially when it comes to category 3, which talks of electrical and electronic equipment, category 4, on automobiles, locomotives, and all that, and category 5 for non-packaging materials. One member asked about you have mechanisms in place at your premise to manage the waste arising from your product. Remember, the regulations address the waste at post-consumer stage and end of life. So I'm imagining you could be having, of course, some mechanisms in place at the industry level to manage the waste. This one, you need to communicate it to your PRO. This is the amount of products, for example, I've imported. This is the amount of waste that is coming out of my products, and this is what I've been able to recover and manage in terms of, for example, recycling. There are those who are encouraged even to have a deposit refund system. That means your waste is not available in the environment. You are either using or you are recovering in some way. Then it means you may pay less to your PRO because you have some mechanisms in place to manage the waste, be it at post-consumer stage or end of life. So that is a discussion that I would encourage producers to have with your PRO. How, for example, are you managing your waste? Do you have a deposit refund system? Or what is it that you have in place such that at the end of the day, then you reduce the amount of the EPR fee that you pay to your PRO. Having said that, it is important to note managing of waste does not include collecting the same and taking to Dandora. For example, we want to discourage the linear way of managing waste, that is make, use, and dispose, to circularity. It has to be either recycled, it could come out as the same product or something else. That means it is a win for the environment. One member asked about the pallet. I had stated this earlier. The pallet, especially when we have packages inside the pallet, then the pallet doesn't become the packaging material. And for your information, wood is not even regulated because it is environmentally friendly. What that pallet becomes is a convenient way of transportation in terms of logistics, but we are interested in the number of packages inside the pallet, the bulk packages inside the pallet. Are we going to open and count them? That is why these documents that you are submitting, for example, the packing list, is important for us. However, if we may suspect that there is something going on, then that one becomes a case where we may want to flag a certain product just for fiscal verification. However, we don't want to do that because, again, we don't want to delay businesses, as it were. I would encourage that you make the right declaration. It even becomes easy for us to clear you, because we don't want to have a back and forth kind of engagement where we are raising issues here and there unnecessary. Just make the right declaration, then we clear you as fast as we can. There is one member who asked about dealing with pharmaceuticals, and they have registered as a producer. Do they then join a PRO or not? Yes, once you have introduced the products into the Kenyan market, the first obligation for you is to register as a producer. Then you are expected to establish a scheme, which you can do individually. That scheme is supposed to manage the waste that arises from your product at post-consumer stage or at end of life. But that scheme can be individual or it can be collective. So you need to establish and join. So if you don't establish your own scheme, and that scheme then needs to be registered with NEMA, you need to do a registration of an individual scheme with NEMA, and thereafter obtain a license to operate that individual scheme from NEMA, which is annual at 50,000 shillings, and have mechanisms in place in terms of structures on how you recover your products at post-consumer stage or waste arising from your product. Be able to treat that. If it includes then transport, logistics, and all that, prove it to us, then we can register you. You proceed with your individual EPR scheme. If you are not able to do that, the best thing to do is to join an existing PRO or establish a collective EPR scheme and then be able to manage the West. And at this point, I need to remind the producers that these PROs are not foreign entities. PROs, it is you. It is you who members who come together to form an organization. Instead of each producer approaching the authority individually, then you go sit down, organize yourself, register that one single entity called the PRO, an example of PACPRO, then approach the authority to register with us, of course, with the undertaking that you will be fulfilling the obligations listed in Regulation 5. So I would encourage that you also familiarize yourself on the workings of the PROs, who are these PROs and all that. I think that is all I have for now, unless Mr. Osoro wants to add on something.
Zach, maybe before Newton comes, I don't know, maybe I didn't hear the question about the medical devices. When are they? She asked if they are charged per line item based on the pro forma invoice or based on the line items per IDF.
Maybe if she could clarify that.
Yes.
What I was saying earlier is that there are products that we charge in terms of how they are packed. The packaging material, for example, when we talk of non-hazardous products, packaged in plastics, packaged in cartons, packaged in paper, cardboard, and all that. Then we go for the bulk packaging. If they are packed in a carton, then we go for that carton for the non-hazardous products and all that. If it is chemicals that are packed, for example, in a drum, then we go for that specific drum. But if there are medical devices that become standalone items that perhaps could fall in category 3, that is electrical and electronic equipment, I'm imagining it is a machine that is a standalone, then that machine becomes the item.
Okay, let's hear from Chandni. I think she wanted to clarify.
So basically, medical devices, like in orthopedics, they can come as sterile products and non-sterile products. Both variations come as single products packaged in cartons. But when you are bringing in your products, you're bringing them in as individual line item products. So this 150 shillings, is it based on how many items are coming in or based on the IDF? Because sometimes each product has different HS codes. You club them together on your IDF and you ship them like that. So I just like, this is just some gray area. Or should we just try one and then see how it's charged?
Understand.
So let's say, for example, on my pro forma invoice, there's 500 items, right? 500 line items. On the IDF, though, there's 400. will I be charged per line item based on my pro forma invoice, or will I be charged 150 shillings based on my IDF?
Well, I think this is a very unique scenario. We're actually consulting with Zachary, and the straight answer to this is that let's just have the first application, then we pick it up for this unique case so that we are able to guide with authority. Right now, we might tell you that it will be based on the IDF, and finally at the port you get that you're charged per line. So let's just pick it up for the medical equipment, just like we've done for the special entities, the EPZs, the SS, and the others, so that we're able to give some very clear guideline on the same. We don't want to fumble. Yeah, we do not want to fumble on this. Then the bit on, okay, thanks. I hope, Shaz, that's fine.
But before you move on from that, Newton, because Kemri
Yes,
has a question, so I think they might be related to medical equipment. So maybe we can just hear Oscar Kai, and then you can finish off.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks very much. As you said, we are coming from a biomedical institution, and one of the things which we import is biohazard bags, which we use post-consumer. We also destroy that. I don't know whether that on its own will be subjected to costs or not. And also, if it is, how are you going to cost that? Because inside it's a pack of plastic, but inside the pack is also several packs of the same, and sometimes you have several lines because you're going to use them for burning things which you're using. The second thing which I had, which of course Ju had talked about, and also Veronica, is about importing plastics. But I think it has, Joyce also said something about whether these plastics are soft plastics or hard plastics. We import a lot of vials. We import a lot of Falcon tubes, which are also plastics, which we use for our work. And apart from that, some of these vials have samples, as Ju has said, but then at the end of the procedure, we have to burn them. So I incinerate them. So I am not sure whether we will be subjected to every importation we have to pay for that 150 and how that will go on. I know some of these vials or Falcon tubes are packed in plastics. They are boxes, but inside them, some of them have also plastics. But then there are companies which only have boxes with those Falcon tubes or vials. And I don't know at what time these ones will be subjected to. The last thing which I wanted to ask, are we subjected to that 150 because we are importing, or it's the person who is making those Falcon in plastics? Because at the end of the day, everything here is incinerated. Thanks.
I think I'll go first, then Zach will also supplement. But Oscar, thank you. I do not want us to have a discussion, but of course, the first question I wanted to ask you is whether, in the first place, you have a license to import the plastic packaging in the form of biohazard bags. But I know that's something you could think through in terms of the level of compliance, the documents that you have at your desk allowing the importation of biohazard bags, and why is it that you would want to consider importation vis-a-vis getting a local manufacturer so that you're able to cut on cost for the same. So the first license you would consider is the plastic packaging for the biohazard bags. Then, like Joyce in our opening statement indicated clearly, the regulations touch on flexible packaging and not the hard plastics. So the question we'd want to respond again as a team is whether vials
are flexible in nature. Then I know Zachary will probably add to it in terms of the packaging. All biomedical wastes are being incinerated, and therefore, if at the point of importation you paid some import fee, what will finally happen? But of course, we expect you to incinerate the samples with the packaging. What I just wanted to add from previously, I think it was due, was the gaps in the regulation. The regulation, this is a living document, and it's fairly possible or straightforward to do an addendum to a bit of the regulation, as long as the text or the spirit of the regulation is not amended. So if there is anything that we are convinced that needed to go into law in terms of defining what the item is, what the bulk is, we should be in a position to convince our CS to actually gazette that. So the bit of exemption, I think it's coming out strongly. This is a new regulation that is being rolled out, and what we really appreciate out of this fora is that we are able to pick what needs to go to policy beyond the technical level. If Dr. Macharia is here, probably he would put a word to it. But anything that would require policy intervention, that's something that we've picked up for the director. And that is why I encourage that all these documents, even beyond this discussion, when documents come to the CEO's desk, we're able to put up a bigger team beyond the 2 or 3 people who are seated to see the best way to communicate these and to incorporate that into law. So we wouldn't give the exact timelines for these intended amendments in terms of defining an item or a potential exemption to the regulation, but it's something that we picked up, and we will pass the same to the policy level. That's the director, to be precise. So thank you very much. Maybe I'll give Zach a chance as we move towards wrapping up. There are quite a number of questions that have been shared before, whether if somebody does not have an e-citizen account, how does that go for the application of the producer registration certificate? Maybe Zach, you'll come in. And quite a number of questions that we could probably do also a response and share with Gathoni to share with the members. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Just an addition on the question from Cambry, I think. When it comes to importation, yes, you will pay the 150 shillings for the package. And your package here is the biohazard packaging materials. Of course, if they are done in a bale, then you are going to pay the 150 shillings per bale for that particular product. When it comes to incinerations, which indeed you do, incineration is one method of treating waste, which is encouraged. And actually, the first obligation in that set of obligations as a producer that you are supposed to fulfill is to establish a take-back scheme. And that take-back scheme can include that incineration that you do. That means then you are going to reduce or even forego the money that you may end up paying to the PRO, because your waste then doesn't end in the environment. But you will agree with me, you are incurring even then a cost at incineration at your own level. So that is the information that is encouraged. You also need to communicate to the authority when it comes to, in terms of reports, how much, for example, you introduced into the Kenyan market, then how much you incinerated. If it is 100%, we are okay with that, because that is what we encourage. Mr. Osoro here has indicated there are questions regarding creation of accounts on eCitizen. If you visit eCitizen, it has various accounts. We have citizens. You can create, if you don't have an account on eCitizen, you can create an account as a citizen. And if you are not a citizen, they are even there for diplomats, they are there for aliens and all that. For companies, once you are the director of a company, you can create as many accounts for as many companies as you do have. So we could encourage directors to create accounts for their companies. I think that is it.
I think, thank you, Zach. Gathoni, I see our director, Vice Chair Susan Maingi is on the call. She has a question.
Yes.
And I see
Yes.
Georgina Washuka from CAM.
Okay. So let's have you guys get unmuted. Zach, please.
Maybe we can do Susan, Georgina, then we will do the next round of Crispin, Emmanuel, Crispin, and Karen.
And maybe just some housekeeping because we are way past our timeline. I think for those who are still in the call, we ask that you continue to stay with us. The questions are very important in terms of what the next steps are. So we will work to finish within the next 20 minutes and have you release you into your program. So kindly stay with us. And for the other things that will continue being discussed, we will have a follow-up webinar next week and the week after, and maybe get more technical in terms of how the PRO works, how licensing and registration happens, but all the same, we will still share this. And as we continue, as Susan is just about to get ready to speak, if you look on the chat option, there are steps on how to register that you can be familiarizing with yourself for each of the steps or the licenses that are required for you as a producer. So over to you, Susan.
Hello, good afternoon. You can hear me?
Yes,
we can.
All right, great. No, thank you very much for this webinar and putting it together. Or the whole team of PAC Pro led by Joyce, and as well as the whole NEMA team who are present. And those who are not present now, I want to thank you very much because these webinars are so important for our engagement, but also learning, but also it's important to have this dialogue to clarify. So for me, it's just a clarification or question, is that there's been a lot of clarifications made by NEMA. The question is because we're working in a universe where we're working with multiple parties externally, whether it's through Kentrade or KPA, and two is it may not be subject to individual interpretation. Are there opportunities for NEMA for this to be defined, especially on the import packaging materials, the definitions, and this is either placed in a notice or it is integrated in all the systems so that as manufacturers or industry or trade facilitate smooth trade, just the same way as it's very clear and documented in the CET tariff handbook. So there's no challenges in interpretation. Is this possible that can be integrated? Just a comment. Thank you.
Thank you. And before NEMA comments, we had another hand up from
Georgina. We can do Georgina. We can do,
yes.
let's do Georgina. Then
Yes,
we have
Georgina.
another round from the others, yeah.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Can I be heard?
Yes, we can hear you, Georgina. Go ahead.
Thank you, Joyce and team and everybody on the call. I think these engagements are very important. But for me, I think it's just one big issue that as much as we try to have these conversations every day, NEMA needs to be very clear. As much as we appreciate the challenges that they're having, but I want to disagree that we cannot have a regulation that is a moving target. It is really making it difficult for people, the different sectors and everybody to interpret what this regulation really wants. to do or achieve. From where we sit, a regulation should be very clear. It should be very precise. It should be predictable. It should be accountable, and should be able to, give some clear guidance. We don't want to sit in this space where we're trying to clarify things and NEMA has to go back and check with this and that and that. And I think Bwana Ogambo from Kenya Shippers actually asked this question very clearly. When are we going to review this regulation so that we can close it and people can be able to enforce it or comply with the regulations without a lot of challenges? I don't think the process of changing a regulation is as simple as it is being implied on the call, that you can wake up tomorrow and change this and that, because we all know the process of developing this is quite lengthy. And I think it took about 2 years to just do the first draft of the regulation. So when the thing started, when the issue of the 150 that came in, which brought all the confusion, that actually made the whole regulation spirit, we all want to save the environment and our health, but this 150 story is the one that has brought all this. So can NEMA team clearly tell us when they will review this part and give us a complete regulation so that it is easy for people to understand? We cannot keep on just testing as we go on, that we are going to go and check, we're going to go and, all these things, we're going to go and review, we're going to go and research. We need a clear regulation. I think for me, that is the biggest thing that needs to be done about this regulation if we are going to achieve our environment conservation in terms of waste management. Thank you, and back to you, Joyce and Gadoni. Thank you for that opportunity.
Thanks, Gadon. Thanks, Georgina. I think, and thank you for coming in as CAM. I think that's a very, very valid and important point of view, because we do want to have a regulatory environment that's predictable. Maybe let's have Crispin and Karen, then now Newton and Zach can close it for us. Crispin?
Hi, thanks again for allowing me back. I think I've also heard that there's other sessions that are planned for next week. So I think my bit of a concern was besides the registration for the producer, there's also a PRO registration. So I wanted to understand how much is that for the importers. And I also wanted to, if they can share their monthly ratings based on whatever we release to the landfill, or probably to the environment. And finally, do we have any other license or permit besides the two? Because there was something I was doing a research on, and I meant to understand that there's I don't know who pays the 50 for the individual and the 100,000 for the collective. So I think those are the question I wanted to get a clarity on.
So, Crispin, we are going to kindly share your email address. We will, after this call, we will touch base with you and guide you through. As a PRO, as PACPRO, we do, and all PROs, we do handle importers as well as local manufacturers. So you're all producers by law, because you're all introducing a product into the market. Of course, there are exceptions like the ones that have come up today within the SEZ and the EPZ, and that I think Newton and Zach have committed they'll be able to provide guidance to them. But if you share with us your email address, we'll take you through what our costing looks like, what we are handling, how much it costs, and we will guide you through that process, just due to time. So maybe Karen and then Emmanuel, then we close it out.
Thank you for letting me back in. Unfortunately, my questions were not answered. That's why I'm asking again. It's in reference to what was imported in bulk for the courier bags especially, that would be used for export. Do we have, because now you're enforcing the regulations, will this be affected with the license? My second question was because these courier bags is what we use for exports. Would we be required now to have the PRO aspect of the regulation? Because it's not being used locally, they're being used to export. Thank you. I submit.
Okay. So Karen, your question is of the bags that you had already imported, is there any retroactive cost that will be levied to it? And then because they are for export, do you have to pay any EPR fees? I think
Correct.
maybe okay. Emmanuel?
I thank you for this privilege. Now, my concern was that based on the fact that you have one consignment and inside the consignment there's several ATF, like 8 IDF under one consignment, should one certificate be applied to that one? Basing in mind that the IDF will be having different entries. Will one certificate be applied to the same?
Okay, that is noted. I think now maybe over to Newton and Zach. Maybe you can pick it up now.
idea. Yes, thank you. Regarding the last question, I would encourage the member, we have a conversation after this meeting. Perhaps Gathoni or Joyce, you can share our contacts, because I would want to really get the clear information on that particular consignment, whether it is under the same UCR number or different UCR numbers and all that. I would encourage that we have a conversation outside this fora. Joyce had responded. One member was asking about the 50,000, 100,000 and all that. I would encourage the particular producer to engage more with the PRO. However, I need to state that there are two ways that you can fulfill your take back scheme. That is individual. That is, if you choose to go individual, that means you are alone, then you are going to approach NEMA, register as an individual EPR scheme at 5,000 shillings. That registration takes 4 years, so it is renewed after every 4 years. Then annually, you need to obtain a license now to operate individual EPR scheme. That is the one that is charged 50,000 shillings annually. The 100,000 is applicable for the PRO, that is the annual license for the PRO, and the 10,000 shillings registration for a period of 4 years. Then Osoro.
Okay. Thank you, Zach. And part of our closing remarks, I don't know if Dr. Ayub would want to come in on behalf of NEMA. Now, maybe I would start by Karen. Apologies, I think we missed out your question, but it has been emphasized by Joyce. You imported courier bags in bulk before 2025, and these courier bags are used for export. Karen has indicated that the bit of EPR, whether it applies anything outside the country, I'm not sure even if you are to engage the PROs, how they would take care of the same. Now, bulk, when you are importing in bulk, did you get a license for plastic packaging material? Because the license applies to importation, the manufacture of the packaging, as well as the use. So the long and short of it is that you needed to have a license, but the rollout of this license was introduced sometime in March last year. So I don't know if you have a license for the same. For the export packaging material, we always have an exemption when it comes, especially to the labeling. So you will get the license for use of plastic packaging material, but then we would not push you so hard to conform to the labeling requirements. So at the time of importation, EPR will apply, but if the products are already in the country, then we will not have you amend anything to the labeling of the product, but we would want to be sure that the resultant wastes, if at all it's used locally, is taken care of. So yes, you are a candidate for license for plastic packaging material, but for export, you'll not be subjected to the EPR requirements. Then Susan and Georgina, we appreciate your concerns. We welcome the concerns, and I know Georgina sometime in January in this very boardroom raised the same concerns. Susan, when we were last week but one, when we met, the concerns were even raised to even higher offices than this one. So my thinking is that this communication needs to come formally. We could advise at the technical level, but you need to have some policy guidance. What we are all alluding to is that we need to communicate this by law so that Osoro does not wake up one day and tell you an item is a pallet, and Zachary the next day tells you it's a bale or a carton. So we hear you, we resonate with the same. But I think there is an ongoing process because I'm aware a document came earlier and there is a higher level engagement, and I know Joyce will speak to it on how to formalize this communication. So Georgina, Susan, and the rest of us, we appreciate the concerns, and I think something is happening at Joyce and CEO and the directors levels. If Dr. Ayub will manage to he's still on call, he'll respond to that. Then is there anything, Joyce, that you think I should respond to? Because that will mark the end from the technical level and we'll pass it on to the director. So, George, could you please ask when is the enforcement? Okay.
When is it starting?
Dr. Ayub, I'm sure Joyce and Dr. Ayub will be in a better position to explain in terms of enforcement deadlines. From the compliance angle, we can authoritatively tell you what we are able to process and the timelines. But Dr. will tell you the current status in terms of enforcement. That's it from us, the technical wing, as well as the environmental compliance. Thank you very much for such platforms, and we hope to see you again. Thank you. Back to you, Joyce and Gadon.
Thank you so much, Newton. Thank you, Zachary. And thank you, of course, to both directors of compliance and enforcement. I think we want to applaud your commitment to providing this information continually. I think I do want to reiterate, Newton and Zachary, that in the last meeting we had last week, I think from the technical team, there was a commitment even by Director David from compliance to provide us with a published notice or something where we have the definition of per item and those aspects that are providing, of course, a lot of nervousness. Because, you know, when it comes to dealing with the port and clearance, the processes are supposed to be very seamless. And so we don't want it to be a subjective process. We need to be very objective. And I think that's why I hope, Newton, that, and I've heard you have picked it up, that it's something that needs to be done. So we are really looking forward, because Director has said, David has said by 13th, the Kentrade system should be live. And so we expect then, hopefully before then, that this should have been published. I think that being said, I will reiterate that indeed, yes, there is an MOU that has been presented to NEMA, to the Director General's office by way of a consultative process led by KEPSA as well as other business member organizations, ourselves, the Shippers Council, and many others. And I think one of the key things that we are hoping as an outcome from that, of course, one is exemptions for certain products. Number two, of course, is definition of per item and other such like aspects. I think once NEMA come back to us, and I'm happy that David has stated that 13th is when they are looking to really run the import fee through Kentrade. We are then optimistic that this process would hopefully have been concluded by that time. That being said, we do commit to keeping every one of you on this call and those who had joined us before abreast of what is happening. It is information that is for your good, and so we do look forward to getting feedback that we can be able to share with you. That being said, allow me to say thank you. I think on behalf of our board, our vice chair is here, and the management for joining into these sessions. Again, let me thank all the BMOs that we have partnered to bring these sessions to the industry. They are for our good and for your good, and we thank you for the mobilization efforts that continue to happen and for continually sharing this within your own organizations. Lastly, of course, I will thank our production team who have supported us to be able to bring this live to you. And all recordings and presentations will be shared to you after this, as well as any questions that were not answered. We usually will have a rapporteur, put them down, and then have NEMA or ourselves internally fill them in depending on where it is relevant, and then we will share them as a brief, accompanied by the recording of today's proceeding. Let me now hand over to our MC Gathoni to bring the meeting to our close.
Thank you, Joyce, and thank you everyone for being with us throughout almost 3 hours of your morning. We really appreciate it. So we are left with 2 more episodes of the EPR Exchange, and next week we will be tackling a significant portion on registration, the documentation that you need, as well as what you are requiring from your producer responsibility organization. This will allow entities that have an individual scheme to have confidence in saying, okay, we are okay with what we're doing so far, it's meeting the obligations, or no, it actually is more economical for us to be part of a collective scheme. So stay tuned to next week, Tuesday, same time, 10 a.m. to 12. Of course, we will still have a Q&A session to discuss matters arising throughout your applications, but just to emphasize that there is still an ongoing compliance requirement that is happening with all the retailers in Kenya, where you are required to not only show your licenses for plastic clearance, producer registration, but that you must show that you have been paying your EPR fees. And as Dr. Macharia mentioned, that it should not be older than 2 months, meaning you should have a document that says you are compliant from December 2025. So kindly reach out to your PRO. Our contact details are on the chat box. Sydney Musundi will be posting those afresh, as well as steps that you need to take to do each of the registrations, and we will send each of these documents to you on email. So thank you very much for your time. We wish you a wonderful rest of the week until we meet again next week on Tuesday. From PAC Pro to you, have a wonderful time. Good day.